Hello, my name is Mikayla Watson, and this is my project 1 for CADS 2550, Lighting, Mechanical, and Environmental Systems. First was exercise 2.1. This was my first time using Revit, and it was very straightforward with adding walls into an existing building shell. Exercise 2.2 was building off of the previous one with adding doors, and something that I learned as a result was how to flip doors and manipulate where and what, as well as changing the types and styles of the doors. And exercise 2.3 was adding furniture. And this was a challenge as at first we were not able to access the library, Imperial English Library, as it wasn't correctly downloaded. But once that was fixed, it was very straightforward from there. Exercise 3.1 was learning about how to make stairs and ramps. A challenge from this chapter for me was learning how to actually properly line the stairs up with the openings, as well as making sure the railing was put in properly. And exercise 4.1 was adding room tags. The only change I made for this from my initial submission was making sure I had the proper file. As with my initial submission, I did not have the proper file with the room tags. It was just the furniture plan in the building. And as time went by, I got more used to finding the room boundaries. As when I first started, it was a little bit challenging trying to find them, but towards the end, I got much more used to finding the different boundaries to put in the room tags. And exercise 4.2 was adding a room legend, and this was very straightforward. 4.3 was the floor finish legend, and this was also straightforward as it was very similar to the previous exercise. And exercise 5.1 was adding ceiling. A challenge that I faced was making sure the tiles lined up where they were supposed to be, and being able to change them where the tiles were located by manipulating the movement. And exercise 5.2 was adding light fixtures, and something I learned that I didn't know was learning how to align the fixtures to the different tile system to make sure it was even. And exercise 5.3 was adding egress signage, and this was very straightforward from the book. And exercise 6.1 was the first time doing interior perspectives. I had the challenge of learning how to adjust the perspectives, as well as like learning how to take away certain walls so you got the proper viewpoint that I actually wanted. And 6.2 was the isometric section. A challenge was learning and getting familiar with what each of the lines does with this. And then 7.1 was learning to render. My main challenge was being able to change the material. When I first was trying to do it, it would not work. And I was able to figure out what I was doing wrong, which was how I was trying to apply to different paint and flooring. And exercise 8.1 was interior elevation. And this was very straightforward to me with learning how to do each of the different steps. And then in exercise 8.2 was the building elevations, which was very simple as well, as it was very similar to the previous exercise that I did. Something I did learn after the fact for both of the elevations was when putting in the initial elevation, you can hit the little checkbox with your initial elevation box, and that would allow you to make multiple elevations, which I did not realize at first. And exercise 9.1 was building sloped roofs, and this was very straightforward and simple for me. And 9.2 was adding flat roofs, and an initial challenge was learning how to build the sides of the walls up a little bit above the roof, which I quickly managed to understand. And after the first wall, it went very smoothly. Exercise 9.3 was adding topography, and this was very simple for me. And 9.4 was adding trees. A challenge was being able to see the trees in 2D view, as when I had initially downloaded this file for this chapter, it already had some trees in here, but never showed up on the 2D view. And when I went to add trees of my own, while it would show up in the 3D view, it wouldn't show up in the 2D view with the symbols. And so I was able to learn how I can adjust to see what different views is or isn't allowed with different options and settings. And exercise 10.1 was creating a piece of furniture. The challenge that I faced was making sure the lines matched and measurements were correct, as sometimes when the lines initially, the first couple times I did it, would overlap a little bit, it would not properly finish. And a change I made for my initial submission was changing the view to a realistic form instead of hidden line, as I made that mistake the first time with my initial submission. And exercise 11.1 was a construction plan. And this was very simple to me, as it reminded me a lot of the room tags at the beginning of the semester. And exercise 11.2 was making a door schedule. And this again was very straightforward for me. And finally was exercise 11.3. And a challenge I faced was figuring out what the detail line, region, and component purposes were, as well as like how to properly use them from the textbooks. But after playing around, I was able to understand what and why they were used. And that has been my project one and first time working with Revit. I believe I have a much stronger foundation that I will be able to build upon and go off for future projects, and look forward to seeing what I am able to do. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a good day.